So, understanding your values, traits, personality, and interest to create a clear foundation for career direction. Investigating the industry, job roles, employment trends, and economic demands to make informed choices. Building essential technical and interpersonal skills, qualifications, and experiences aligned with career goals. Exploring how adults, especially older workers and senior citizens, navigate career changes in core careers, late life employment motivations, ageism in hiring, and psychological adjustment and identity reconstruction, goal settings, dealing with uncertainty, managing stress, and cultivating resilience through the career lifespan. That's what means having a path on your career.
So I didn't really understand most of that. And I think that's very appropriate for today's topic, because that is how I have felt through my election of career throughout my life.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
that's very in the mood, very in the mood. So let's confront your troubles.
Make conscious the unconscious.
Hi, this is Josh.
And this is Santi. Welcome to the session in the Mind Quest.
So this is one of those topics that I didn't think would be like as complex as the other ones, but that it turned out to be just as complicated once we look at it more closely. We will try to see like career as the thing that you do 1/3 of your days 5 days a week, assuming you have a 9 to 5. But I think it's important to keep in mind that as we go along talking about career and work and things like that, there are a lot of concepts that are going to appear around these ideas that have more to do with you as a person than with the with the professional world. At the same time, there will be things about the real world that we cannot change, that your choice of career will have to base around. So that's kind of what we're doing today.
Well, this was quite long research because apparently there are a lot of pros and cons and visions and standards that are working around, especially because somehow at this point psychology mixes up with with HR, and that's horrible. So, all approaches see self-knowledge as foundational to career development. I'll acknowledge that career identity involves rather than stays fixed, and all support the idea that individual differences shape career outcomes.
Yes. Um, well, like I said, when there is a physical reality that we all have to answer to, what we can do inside that reality or inside our environment answers to our physical abilities and mental abilities and like possibilities, and we've talked about like socioeconomic privilege and all that. So it's important to remember that on one hand, you will have what what you want to do, what you dream of doing, the ideal situation. And on the other hand, you will have the practical realities of if you need to pay rent this month, you may not be able to go for your ideal dream situation, right? So we were trying to balance these two perspectives. On one hand, there is this personal exploration of that has more to do with psychology and with yourself. And on the other hand, you have this idea of what resources, what opportunities, what the labor conditions actually are wherever you are in the world, right? Because this again changes from location to location.
So, apparently, there's quite significant emphasis in the need to develop competencies to succeed professionally. And this ability is essential to modern career readiness. Uh, each one of the investigators that I work with for this research ended up recognizing that both internal factors, I mean, mindset and reflection, and external factors like experience and expectations are somehow involved in this. Uh, there's also an agreement that older adults, uh, can and do redefine careers, rejecting the old retirement model. So this is interesting because something that is coming on now, and they are like trying to get into different things. And I find some interesting stuff about this. All highlighting motivation, identity, and purpose as drivers of late life career decisions. People, when they're getting older, they're trying to choose for something that gives them purpose and feel better. And at the end, they show that well-being improves when seniors remain engaged, whether through work or meaningful activities. So, do something for you. I mean, work on yourself. That's that's I think the goal at the end in our years.
But in some way, yes. Um, I think again, right? We need to start with the person as well, right? Like, so if this is what the person wants to do, if they feel like continuing to work, continuing their career, would enrich their life, absolutely. That is definitely like something you should look into, right? I think for a lot of people that is not the case. I think for a lot of people they are having to go back to work because we need the money, because the economy is in shambles. Right, so I don't want to sugarcoat this and say, oh my gosh, it's people in the golden years going back to their passion. No, a lot of the cases it's not. A lot of these cases people who are tired, who have already worked for their life, who are having forced to go back to work because the alternative is being homeless. So, again, I don't want to romanticize poverty here. So if ideally, yes, at the end of the life, keep doing something because you want to do it. Right? Now that's kind of the dream. If you are having to, if you are not being able to enjoy your golden year the way you want to, but maybe it's because of greater societal problem than you or the what you did. But regardless of which case this is, there needs to be an ability for adaptation, right? An ability for coping with stress and uncertainty, right? I think maybe today everything is fine. You're going years enjoying life in some beach in Miami. Maybe 2 years down the line, things will change, and now you're having to go back to work. So again, we're going to talk about a lot of things today that sound like these are even something that you do now and things like that forever. Things change, right? So today you may be the young adult choosing a career. In a couple of years, you may be the adult having a midlife crisis. In another couple of years, you may be the senior citizen having to choose a senior citizen activity, right? So there was this word last session that we used, like monolithic. People are not monolithic. You are not the same your entire life. You are not this unchanging block of rock. We are ever changing, right? So a lot of the things that we are going to talk about today, it's important to remember that they may apply to you at different moments in your life. And the same way, maybe you are in an older stage of your life. Think about this thing. Think about when you chose 40 years ago what you wanted to do as a career. Did you think about this thing? And try to just explore that as a way of self-reflection and self-knowledge. I think regardless of what you choose to do, knowing yourself better is going to be helpful for you. So yeah, so that's what I would say in that regard. Maybe we can move into today's story and see how things are going. Whatever comes to your head today.
Well, yes, and some of the things you just said remind me of my own reality with my parents, for example.
Mm-hmm.
All people that are not able to retire actually because economical needs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I've been thinking about how I managed actually to choose my career.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if it has something to do with my my personality.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least the type of personality I'm supposed to have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Maybe I'm creating my own narratives around vocational choices, or perhaps it relates to life stages and the changes they bring. Um, was I truly able to build my path while shifting from, I don't know, informatics to cooking to art or to education? Um, or or was it all the result of contextual changes in my life? How does it actually work? Because I mean, I have been switching careers, if you want to, since I left high school. So I was informatics technician for the school, then I got into cooking, and then I get into arts, then I get into teaching. Was like the largest part of career choosing that I have, but some of those stuff actually ended up staying, working with me and being part of what I do and my personality somehow. So was it because of the context that I choose that, or was it because it's actually myself showing those elements that form part of me now, that are my career?
Like, would you say those were choices, or were you just trying them? You know what I mean? Like,
That's, I think, part of the doubt. So did I manage to actually choose them? Was it something that is like unconscious because it's part of your build up personality,
mm,
or it was because context guide you
mm,
to that choosing?
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I think you're kind of describing like the whole process. You're kind of describing the whole process of figuring out kind of what to do at that stage in your life, like when you are ending high school and you have to choose this career path, right? I think there are many factors that come into play on different levels with different people. One is always like your parents, right? Like this is a very traditional like career influence factor, right? A lot of people would say, I became a lawyer because my dad was a lawyer and his dad was a lawyer, so we already had the book, so I just kind of went with it. Some people will be happy that way. Some people very much enjoy that and take pride in that, and they see that as a legacy or family, whatever. Absolutely. For a lot of people, that is a chain, that is a burden, that is something that is being forced upon them that they don't want to do. Most people are somewhere in the middle, right? At some point, we all look at our parents and say, okay, do I want to do that, right? Does that look like something I would like to be as well, right? There may also be the opposite influence. Your parents may explicitly say, no, I don't want you to do what I do. This is very common, for example, in more like poor areas where people have jobs that are very much survival-oriented jobs, where they will say, no, I don't want my kids to do this. I want my kids to go to school and then do whatever they want to do, right? So there are always like these different influences that appear at that time. You also describing the other side, right? We also go on a photo discovery journey. We ourselves have to figure out, well, what do I like, right? And what do I really like? What do I like? And what I can do without being too miserable, right? Because in many ways, your work will encompass these three experiences ideally. And the third element is just the context of what I can actually do, right? Like, we need to assess ourselves and we need to assess the environment as well. So I think that would be an interesting question for this course. Like, if you look back at those choices and those changes, what was the environment like? Like, how heavy or how much would you say the environment or other people weighted on these decisions? Let's say changing from informatics to cooking, and then from cooking to art.
That's kind of a tricky one.
And I think it's
No,
curious.
because
I just wanted
I
to
think
mention. I
there are a
think
lot of things.
this is a curious.
Go.
This is a curious progression because you went from the most employable in informatics to the least employable in arts. So I think it's interesting that this progression seems to be interesting in towards what direction of like what capitalist society would think of as employable careers. But I'm curious as to why, how much do you think the environment played a role in that?
So at that time, yeah, sure, maybe informatics was one of the most employable careers.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, it is not really, but
Mm-hmm.
at that time, they were needed like technicians to help on anything inside an office, right?
Mm-hmm.
But my dad worked as a technician his whole life. He's still working as a technician now. So what I can take out of that is that at that time, more or less, my dad quit his job on an enterprise and he started working alone, more or less. Uh, he was not really like happy or enjoying his career choosing and the way he was trying to survive. So uh, I think that got something to do. Also, that was not like my real choice. I wanted to do like video games because at the time was something like new and artistic and whatever, right? So that career choosing was impossible here. There were no way to apply to something like that. So, oh, but I decided to go to something practical that was cooking. So I started in cooking. And yeah, of course, it's quite employable, but it's a low income career down here.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh shit, there's a lot of work. I don't really want to keep on doing this. I love it, but I don't like it for like a lifespan of sacrificing myself to keep up going. And then there was arts that gave me some sort of hint closer to that idea of the artistic part of the video games dreams that I used to have.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose that based on dreams, I guess, and the idea that some of my teachers at high school told me that, you know, you're somehow talented, you should try this and go on with it. So keep it like a strong skill based career that is actually visual arts.
Mm-hmm.
So I choose to go that way, even though my math teachers, for example, there was a crash in there because these are the literature and philosophy teacher telling me go do arts, and there's the math and the physics and the trigonometry teacher telling me no, you should be an engineer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I get into a lot of hatred with the math teacher, and I said no, I'm going for arts, and that's it. No more fighting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then getting into education was kind of a I need to solve something because there is no way for art to actually build up if there's no public. So I decided that it was important for me to get into education so that somehow I can help fix that gap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Teaching about education so that not maybe not me, but those to come will have some public at some
Mm-hmm.
point, at least the few I can actually work with.
Mm-hmm.
Facts being said, after 11 years, I got a few students that actually got into arts from one place or another, and even fewer that got the idea that actually a lot of money is moved around the world of arts,
Mm-hmm.
and none of them, most none of them, except those that are actually involved in the world of arts, are public. So
Mm-hmm.
sort of nothing happened.
Right. 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 Mm-hmm.
But well, I do recall that growing up with this Hollywood idea of career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like you go to the counselor and someone to guide you, and yeah, so someone guided me. And if I recall correctly, I only ever took one vocational test,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
one in high school. That was it. So it actually suggested that I should get into veterinary medicine.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend is actually a veterinarian, so it's kind of weird, but
Hmm.
I think that's how I get into veterinary.
Mm.
uh, but as a kid, I dreamed of being like detective or investigator. That's that kind of thing that was common on TV. And then I wanted to be a chef, so I actually studied to that. As I told you, and I discovered that the career was horrible. So, and then I wanted to get into this video game designing, and ended up doing the major in arts. And instead of going through, like, I don't know, painting or maybe printing, that was like the closest outcome to video games, I ended up doing pottery and
Mhm,
ceramics,
mhm,
which was supposed to be the most easy to take off as products that are sellable.
mhm,
Not true, because actually producing ceramics is quite expensive.
mhm,
If you're doing it by yourself, if you are not in the industry, it's quite expensive. So I never ended up doing actually ceramics
mhm,
outside university because it was impossible to pay.
mhm.
So, and then, well, as I told you, I get into education for this kind of idea that I was trying to build on public by uh, taking this chance on education. Showed me a lot of other things that were not actually there for that purpose. So, uh, and there was always this looping voice in your head that is reminding you that what ifs,
Mhm.
you know? Because, well, especially when you're sad and depressed on some situation, you go back and you, what would happen if? No, what would happen if? So what I'm trying to say is, if I explore, use my resources and opportunities, and research the labor market, why have I felt so unsatisfied with my past decisions?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how unsatisfied would you say you are with your passage? One would be not so bad, like 10 would be like I absolutely fake. Like every single step I took was an error. I should have done everything different from the beginning. So that's the thing. Number one, you're like, man, could be better. I could be better.
So the thing is, I don't believe it's an stable number. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's switching positions. So
Mm-hmm.
there are days that I repping everything and I'm on an 11.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't be here. What the hell is going on?
Mm-hmm.
And there are days that I'm like in a 2 or 3,
Mm-hmm.
maybe. Yeah. So okay, it's not that bad. It is everything, every little decision that I make and every choosing that I have took me to this place, and these things are actually making me happy. So if I haven't done this, maybe I wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because somehow this is the outcome that came up after all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a switching number.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always on the same position.
Mm-hmm. And does it ever reach zero or minus one?
No. So
Mm-hmm.
I do get the idea. There are some things that I do regret a lot, like not really getting into pursue the informatics career
Mm-hmm.
serious.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For example, I do found out at that time that that were engineering career on software,
Mm-hmm.
not systems, but software.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but I was supposed to apply for a scholarship and move to the US.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And uh, being quite honest with you, I didn't have the balls to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So thinking about these previous choices that either you regret or you're not super happy with, or that you sometimes wonder what could have been. How? Mm, okay, let's keep using the scale of 1 to 10. How much influence would you say that those choices as a collective have in your present day, right? So if you think about, tomorrow you decide, okay, you know what, I want to make video games. How much of whatever gets in the way would you say comes from those previous decisions that you made throughout your career history? One would be very little, like they are almost completely irrelevant now. 10 would be they are absolute like lead chains that keep me down, and I cannot move forward in any means because of those choices I made. So what would you be meeting 1 and 10?
So I do think its influence is actually quite high.
Mm-hmm.
I won't move too far away from a two, maybe. That's you mean like that?
2 would be
I
very
know,
little
or
influence.
maybe the other way. So maybe
Like
a
an 8.
9 or an 8.
Like an 8. Okay.
So
Like 8. Mm-hmm. So normally this is where I would say, well, it's important to remember that your past decisions that God made you here. But no, if there is like, if there is definitely this segment that they use choice of things like, hey, I would say these aren't regrets. These are like present problems, in the sense that maybe the sign here isn't so much that there is something to regret, but maybe that there is something to change. Does that make any sense?
mm, I don't get it. Like
So
change
for
how?
so for example, let me give you an example with myself, right? So when I had to choose to become a psychologist, I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do. I knew I didn't want to do math because I hated numbers, but I didn't know what else to do. I told my parents I want to become a doctor because they are doctors, and they say no. They fuck no. They said like this is a horrible life. You do not want this. Choose something else. Then I said I'm going to become a chef. My dad said no, absolutely not. Yeah, I'm not going to pay for your school if that's what you're going to do. I said, okay. So I said, you know what, fine. I'm going to become a psychologist. Why? Because there is no math. I looked at the CV. There was no math. I knew I wanted to work with people, right? That's the kind of the part that I sort of liked about being a doctor, right? I knew that I wanted to work with people. And I really didn't have any other choice. So these were very weak reasons to becoming a psychologist. I think it took me 1 year to realize, yeah, God, this was what I wanted to do, right? It was definitely like a lot of the complaints I have now. I could see them then, right? Like it was like pretty clear to me back then that some of the things that I still don't like about psychology were there. And at some point in my second year, I was this close. Like I was about to sign the paperwork to become a Jesuit priest. I was going to become a novice. Because the university was owned by the Jesuits. And I had a teacher that was a psychometric teacher that was a priest, and he would tell us about what, how he became a Jesuit and what it was like. And it was really cool, and it was about traveling the world, like studying philosophy and all that kind of stuff. So I was like really close, really close. I think like now in 2025, I think it would have been okay if I made that choice. I think I would have ended very closely to where I am right now. I don't know if I would be in Canada, but I think even in terms of traveling, I could have been able to travel because that was part of the reason why I wanted to become a priest. Because if you continue your studies with the Jesuits, at some point you went to Rome to study, I think it was like Latin or theology or whatever. So, that was the part that I liked. I still think to this day, maybe that was the right choice. maybe I should have become a priest. Because even if I look at the way I live, it's like, yeah, I live a very austere life naturally. Um, I do like spending time, just thinking about these things, just talking, just teaching, all of those things, right? But if I also look at where I am now, I have also changed what I do as a psychologist to look a little bit like that. I have managed to get some of the things I liked about being a priest and as what I do now as my work. So I think this is an example of what I mean when I mean like moving things from one place to the other, or a problem that I need to change. The problem was not so much that I was a psychologist. The problem was that the things that were meaningful to me about psychology and that were meaningful to me about like becoming a priest were not present in what I was doing in my everyday life. Right, like the thing that I say all the time, the person comes first. They were not present from my studies, for example. It was a lot about the diagnosis. It was a lot about, I'm talking about people about like there's something else. Like, and something I will do myself when I speak. Like, those who have this, we all have. Like, people with this, we all do that. So, and so that was something that for me was missing in my study of psychology. And at some point, I think, maybe through psychoanalysis, I was able to realize, oh, this is what I like. This is what's missing for me here in psychology. Indeed, this listening to the person and, even they are being fucking crazy, I want to listen to that first. And then think about, okay, the diagnosis, okay, the psychology work. So, to try that error, I tried to change that. And I got to a point where I feel that my professional practice now aligns with one of my values, what I believe in, what people are and how people work, right? But at some point I had to realize that the problem was that it wasn't really psychology. Because, like, I thought psychoanalysis, for example. And when I eventually asked for, God, like, my school was modern psychoanalysis, I don't like modern psychoanalysis. I like British independent psychoanalysis. But at some point I also had to make these little choices, right, that I could do inside where I was, right? Because part of the reason why I didn't become a priest is I had already spent 2 years studying psychology, right? So switching to theology at that point, that was another 2 year setback, right? So I didn't want to lose the time. But I think that being able to realize, okay, but something is wrong here. Like if I had lied to myself, I said, no, psychology, what I want to do. This is mine. Maybe I could have never realized the things that I think now are wrong with the way psychology is typically practiced. And I wouldn't have been able to propose the things that I am now proposing through the guild and through my practice, right? But that's what I mean, right? Like, what would you say is the issue, or what would you say is what's missing, or what was lost? Again, these words are kind of describing the same thing. With the choices that you made, that would be nice to have now. So what is that is not here, that maybe would be here if you had made different choices? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So no, and thanks for your example. Now I get that. The thing that is missing is the actual real reason why I wanted to do, for example, video games in the first place. It was not for the experience, but for the storytelling behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I do got into tabletop RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's why I start writing, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason why in the visual arts career, I do choose to stick with comic books because they give me the actual possibility to start on this storytelling process or to work around the storytelling process, and that's something that is somehow visible in my pieces, my art pieces, for example, my paintings, my drawings. They're all like built up on the idea of storytelling something. Yeah. So uh, I do realize that something that actually, for example, killed my idea on cooking was actually that there was no storytelling there. So, plus of no way to work that around. When I get to education, for example, I do started with a lot of enthusiasm around this idea of telling the story of arts as that, as a storyteller, not just as no, you need to memorize these dates and these authors and this, I don't know, this, how this painting is called, because
Mm-hmm.
that will maximize your knowledge about arts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't matter that that was made from a very young artist around the same time that Leonardo da Vinci was around and being an angry guy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the School of Athens back in there, but that's a Hollywood interpretation of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was that actually. So um, somehow this is solved now. So I'm working on storytelling
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I'm doing with you. So I'm building up the script and trying to
Mm-hmm.
organize an idea that will actually work for something to tell. Yeah, and that's the thing. So a job is ultimately a learning process.
Mm-hmm.
You need to learn. Yeah. To keep on going if you're in a job. And there are essential skills required in any workplace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're increasingly asked to become multidimensional. So it doesn't matter in which work you are, but that may be the issue that I had with my last job as a teacher, because I wasn't able really to tell the stories. They just wanted me to be handicrafts. Yeah, so it broke my planification and everything that was going on with me. So doesn't work, and that maybe took me out of education somehow. But you're trying to adapt as much as you can. Uh, so much that we seem to merge with our chosen career in terms of identity. And that's because sometimes when they ask you what you are, you usually answer with your profession. Uh, and yeah, I do also. I tend to answer I'm a teacher or I'm an artist. Uh, but as we learn in the identity chapter, uh, there are internal and external factors that shape our mindset, right? And I'm beginning to think that most of the skills I've developed don't fully align with the career demands of my job, but with creativity. I managed to make them fit in the career or in the job that I had, although thanks to my creative process. So, oh, well, maybe this has nothing to do with teaching, but I can use it somehow to go around this or that. Yeah. So, am I right about this? I mean, it is not what we choose to learn to build up our skills, but how we manage to use them to ultimately make some sense of how ready we are to go on with our career.
So I'd say this is sort of at the crossroads of something that is very much changing as we speak. I mean that traditionally, education was seen as meant to give you the tools to do whatever job you were going to do. Right, so you were expected to learn some things in high school that then either you could use straight at work or you could use at university to further specialize at your work and choose a career. This has been changing for the last few decades in the sense that jobs have become so specialized that it's not realistic to spend high school to teach you how to work. Right? Like the moment you finish high school, you have learned nothing about what it's like to work for Google. Even if you did, you have learned nothing about what it's like to work for Amazon, even if they are competitors or the same field. Right? So the world has changed in a way where it is not realistic to expect for a educational institution to prepare you to the literal job you are going to have. Because there are simply too many jobs. I think unfortunately, a lot of people haven't gotten the news yet. There is a lot of training that or expectation that still follow this model. I think that more forward thinking educational places and practices center more around. I think you used the word competencies either earlier. Sorry, I would call them just soft skills, right? I think there's very much this also. Again, this is I'm not really the secret of the cosmos. I think everybody knows this from some level or another. It's not about what you know; it's about who you know. You may have heard somebody tell you this as part of your career advice. I think this is very much the reality of 2025 finding a job, right? It very much. I'm not gonna say 80 because okay, that's a bit too dramatic, but let's say 60 to 70% is going to be about your social ability, and about your ability to free talk the interviewer, about your ability to free talk the phone interviewer, about your ability to free talk your supervisor. That is really what's going to give you the job, the promotion, the raises. Not so much what you do. I'm sorry, what you know. Obedience is also going to give you a lot of praise and promotion because obviously everybody will like a yes man, everybody likes a psychopath, everybody likes a ganador. I mean, obviously. But again, that has got to do with what you know. So I think this is kind of the reality of 2025. That the knowledge that you acquire in high school and university doesn't really answer to the knowledge that you will get at work. And unfortunately, work has organized in a way that what you really need is social skills. Because it's you and 100 other people that they are interviewing in that month. So they are going to remember the ones that are the most likable. And that is just human nature, right? Like that is not like the Machiavellian plans of capitalism, that's just human nature. If I talk to 10 people, I'm going to remember the one that was fun to talk to. Even if maybe they were not the best candidate. Yeah, maybe they are a better cultural fit, that's what those words mean, than the other guy. That just makes I like them more. Right, so I think a more responsible career education nowadays focuses on this kind of thing. Of, okay, how do you present yourself in an interview? How do you answer the typical questions that you have at a job interview? How do you approach the job search? Right, like I think depending on where you are or what career path you are, I mean, there are going to be different strategies that work better. Sometimes it's a better idea to just send 1,000 applications without a cover letter. Sometimes it's a better idea to take the time to customize each application with its own cover letter, its own CV. It depends on your career, it depends on where you are in your career, and so on and so forth. So, but again, this ideally actually that you learn how to make yourself. So what you need to learn are the soft skills behind these choices. So it doesn't matter what career you're in. What you need to learn is, okay, so how do I communicate with a corporation, for example? How do I communicate with an institution? How do I communicate with a supervisor, right? Like how do I communicate with somebody on LinkedIn if I want to ask for a job? These very practical things are what ideally modern career preparation education covers. You don't need to learn how to write a cover letter. I mean, you can use ChatGPT. I'm fucking sorry. Like, just give it the instruction. Do not write like a robot. I promise you nobody's going to go there first. The thing is, if your job requires you to write, you just fuck yourself over. Because you do not actually know how to write. So this is why you cannot just follow advice. You have to learn the reasoning behind the things you're doing. So how do I know if I can use ChatGPT or no? What skills does my job require? Oh, it's an engineering job. Okay, probably don't need to talk fucking use ChatGPT. Oh, I'm a psychologist. Okay, no, I do need to communicate. I am going to need to send emails to everybody in the care team. I need to learn how to write an email. If I don't know how to, I don't know how to do the job. So that's the problem. So again, that is the kind of logic that I think modern, like I said, career preparation follows. And this is something that very much we do at the Hillfield. Like this is very much something that part of your mental health is going to be whether you have a job or not. So it is very much something that is related to what we do as well. So yeah, so that's what it is. So I would say the nowadays it's more about what you as a human need to find a job and do the job than what the corporation needs. Because the corporation doesn't even know what it is. Like the HR person that's hiring you is not going to be your supervisor. So they don't actually even know exactly what your job is. So, they cannot judge you on that. They are going to judge you on what they do know, which is your social skills.
I mean, yeah, most of the time you're just it's just that part, right? The interview.
Yep. And
Speak to you, they decide.
and that
However it
makes no
is.
sense. That makes no sense. Because the interview, if you filter by interview, you're effectively filtering by people who know how to have interviews, not by people who know how to do the job. So it doesn't make sense to do an interview only process, but 95% of processes are going to be interview only. I mean, the only exception I can think right now is like if you're in a coding job where they may ask you for a coding test. But I cannot think of any others where you would be asked to do something to show that you can do something, rather than, okay, so what do you want to work for the Hill Field? What do you expect the Hill Field will give you in the next 6 years? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years? Uh, what I fucking care where do you see yourself in 3 years? Like, I don't know where I see myself in 3 years. Like, how does that tell me how good you are at doing the job? What if you're greatest wingers? I don't give a fuck. What can you do well? That's what I want you to do. Because that's how I gain value from this employment. So, a lot of these things are now completely disconnected from the reality of having a job. I think, unbeknownst to a lot of people, a lot of these hiring practices answer absolutely nothing to the job and answer absolutely everything to HR and the needs of HR and the legal department and the needs of the legal department. So, and then why those or hiring process doesn't work? Why do our employees leave after 3 months? Why are we always understaffed? This is why, because you are not hiring in a way that makes sense.
That that kept me thinking a lot on future. That may be anxiety now, but
Mm.
I'm usually worried about a specific thing. And since I moved down here to Puerto Viejo, and after watching people like my father-in-law now, uh, how he's slowly destroying himself, doing the same job now that he is nearing his 70s. Uh, I wonder whether if I want to continue teaching long term,
Mm.
if I will be doing that the rest of my life. And after speaking with older teachers, friends of mine that are actually older that have retired from teaching, I realized that I don't want that path.
Mm.
So I
Mm.
don't want to finish my career being a teacher all the time.
Mhm.
Uh, Retirement seems traumatic for many teachers, uh, at least from the outside. That's something that you can see. So I switched jobs, and well, yeah, I joined you in the Mind Quest and at the Healers Guild, and somehow the purpose that originally drove me to teaching, my sense of meaning, was faded. Started to make no sense to me to keep on teaching because the purpose was not there. So, uh, and now I'm searching for new purpose, like in here. So, and somehow, as we've talked so far, I managed to connect with the original purpose I do actually
Mm.
have, that is storytelling. So,
Mm.
but okay, this is dubious, but I read in Koi and Moen that purpose-driven career pursuits are more common in older adults. Uh, those who already completed the traditional career path and retired and are now seeking meaning intertwined with it with identity. So why is that? And why do I suddenly feel older?
Uh, that is because at so- how do I say this, guys? Because most people realize when they reach the pinnacle of their professional career that that is not the same as reaching what they want in life. So there is this moment of, oh, what do you mean that being the CEO didn't suddenly make me happy? What do you mean my wife still doesn't love me? What do you mean I'm still stressed about tomorrow? What do you mean I still, credit card debt? Oh, what do you mean doing, it's not about the money. Let try to do something else. So now, purpose driven. I think the opposite is true when we're younger. It is easier to think that, I have been a teenager for the last, I don't know, 8 years, 6 years, whatever. The thing that I have had the least access in those 6 years is money, right? My parents have all the money, so I was asking for money or trying to figure out ways to make money on the side or whatever. So it seems like money is the answer to happiness. So the reason I am not happy is because I don't have money. So it's easier to get into that path and follow the money for a while. Eventually you realize, I think I mentioned it before, yes, actually money does make you happier until a point. When your basic needs are all met, the correlation between happiness and money breaks, and it plateaus. Money no longer makes you happy. You need something else. Um, no, that's okay. That's kind of the other end of the spectrum. I think you are pointing something out as well. Okay, I'm gonna use this metaphor. I'd say purpose is like a spirit that can take many shapes. But it's still the same. Right, so that's kind of the idea here. I'd say maybe it's not so much that you like the purpose stated is that it took a different shape. It is still a storytelling purpose. It is still a teaching environment. It is still all of these things. And I think that can be a blessing or a curse. Because that's the same thing that makes it fun that when you become the CEO of the multi-million-dollar firm, you realize, oh shit, this is this is not making me happy. Purpose takes a different shape. So I think this is kind of that kind of idea here that the more you can see your purpose as it is, like how do I say this? Like without the specific form. So the more you can see your purpose in an abstract form as, oh, I want to teach, oh, I want to storytell, oh, I want to help people, oh, I want to create. The more abstract you can make it, the easier it becomes to follow. Because now, okay, maybe now I'm in this other job, but I can find purpose in this job if I know what my purpose is. Maybe I'm now in this other job. Okay, I can give my purpose a new shape. I can still do what I want to do, but in a different way. So I would say that's kind of the trick there, right? We normally think of what I do gives me purpose, but ideally it should be the other way around. Ideally, you give purpose to whatever you're doing. If you are sitting in an office doing nothing for 8 hours, do something else. Automate that somehow and write a book. Automate that somehow and find a different responsibility to do on your work. Um, Ideally, this happens when you are younger. The younger it happens, the better. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, like I said before, it takes getting to that point where I can no longer tell myself, no, just one more promotion, and that's gonna for sure make me happy. When I get to that point, I can no longer say one more. That's where I have to face it. Oh, Oh, maybe money isn't what I want to do with my life. Maybe when
One that
I
never comes.
exactly. Maybe that never comes. And I think it's a lot about finding, like I said, enjoyment in your everyday practice. Right? Like if yeah, like it's funny because like when you said that example, I was thinking of when I worked as at a diner in New Jersey as a waiter at the. It was one of my favorite jobs. The people were nice. I liked talking to the clients. Weirdly, I felt that having that opportunity in the morning to give coffee to somebody that's going to work and having a little chat, for a lot of them was very meaningful. For a lot of people, like we were the one people they spoke to before starting their day. They would tell us their problem and they would get really happy. We remember their order. So even doing that, again to use myself as an example, I was able to bring something what I like about psychology into that space. I was able to have fun with the people I was talking to. In many ways, it was even more fun because I didn't have to follow the rules of psychology. I was just a fucking waiter, so I could do whatever I want. What are you going to fire me? Yeah. So again, so I think that's kind of the idea here. So find the form that purpose has for you. Like I would say to keep on using the example, find its true form rather than its appearance form, rather than its temporary form in whatever job you're doing. Try to find what it's really like. I don't know if this makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So deep inside, that purpose that I'm looking for, what I'm doing, other than just how it can look on the outside.
Exactly. Like have your purpose determine everything else, rather than everything else determine your purpose.
Yeah, no, no, I don't think so. So I think that at some points it might not have been me working towards my purpose,
Mm-hmm.
but actually using that purpose to do the job that I was doing.
Okay. What do you mean?
So more or less, that was how I actually work around my career in education.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Using that was originally my purpose to teach or to show something,
Mm-hmm.
to make it look different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, and I know it started in high school because I used to have a teacher that had this way of, she was social studies teacher, so we stayed with us about a year. They dismissed her because her classes were too good, apparently. So she was always in this mood of trying to connect with history as it happened. So she worked the class around storytelling and being in like trying to live on the tale.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how it happens. So try to imagine how it would feel to be in this particular situation. You are this and that, and pretty much like how you narrate a role playing game. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but without being it actually, because I do think she didn't know anything about them. So, but more or less same mechanic. Okay. So I know my desire to not only to tell stories but actually use them in a work
Mm-hmm.
was was like how my purpose was somehow built on my
Mm-hmm.
teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my mom said that I used to tell a lot of stories when I was a little kid. I invented, I don't know, half a million tales on anything that happens around me, and I was that kind of kid that was always talking along. So yeah, not out of crazy, but yeah, somehow crazy. But well, if I'm already making all these decisions, like nowadays in this precise moment of my life, then what cues should I follow to keep adapting, to maintain career well-being, to cope with uncertainty and stress? And how do I stay open to exploration and flexibility, assess my capacity, and protect myself from, well, what we talked a long time ago, burnout? The thing we discussed, in that very first episode of the Mind Quest, 10 episodes ago. So
Okay, so I think a fair recommendation would be to see your career as, and we go back to this idea many times, right? Your career is part of who you are, not all of what you are, right? So I think that would be the perfect recommendation here. To the same way we have talked about putting different concepts of yourself, different ideas about yourself, see them as part of a whole. Same idea here. What you do for work, what your career is, what your profession is part of what you are. It's a role you enter into. It is something you perform. You are more than that, right? You are more than your career. You are more than what you do for work. I think that's a good first starting point that sort of helps you stay flexible, right? It is easier for me to change something that is part of who I am than to change myself. There is that sense of greater control over something that is yours rather than something that is you. But that is sort of your recommendation. To see your career as something you do, something that part of what you are, not all of what you are, not what you determine is who you are. Sometimes we will say that, right? You go to school to become someone, right? That's a little bit too extreme. That's you are more than your profession, right? Or your career or your path or your whatever, right? At the same time, I think it's just sort of kind of to add a counterweight to that. Also, it's important to remember that you don't always have to change. Maybe you do enjoy your career. Maybe you do like where you are. Maybe you feel tranquil where you are at peace. Especially, I think nowadays, there tends to be a lot of this discourse around the constant grind, the more, like keep working. You have free time, that's because you are not working hard enough. You have free time, you should have a gig, you should have a go deliver for Uber, go more money, more retirement, more whatever. I think it's also important to sort of counterbalance that. Like, it is also perfectly fine to say, you know what, I am stable where I am paying my bills, I am paying my taxes, I have food, everyone is okay. Maybe I don't need to keep chasing more. Maybe I can think of something else. Maybe I can think more about what I want to do, about my passions, about my curiosity. Maybe I want to try something, right? So use that stability rather than exploit that stability to get more and more whatever, right? I think another one is to just this is what I would call empowering in like professional lingo. When I would say try to empower yourself to see really all the possibilities, right? A lot of the work I do with people about careers and things like that is something more about realizing what they can actually do and less about like acquiring new skills or things like that. Often, or rather more often than not, there are social resources, there are professional resources around us that we can use to either find a new job, find a new career, start a new training that we don't know about. I have seen city programs, I have seen province programs, I have seen government level programs, I have seen them in Ecuador, in Canada, in Quito, like pretty much everywhere you are. There may be employment, career, professional programs around you that you can access. So I would say if you are curious about changing careers or something like that, go for that. If you belong to a protected category, like a senior citizen, there may be a group specifically for you. There may be services specifically for you. So I would recommend go through that. Like try to find formal supports in your environment. There are a lot of them. And finally, remember that a lot of these flexibility around professions and careers has to do with social skills. Like that is just an inescapable reality. You are going to have to talk to your boss, to your supervisor, to the interviewer, to HR, to your coworkers. And I can guarantee you, 9 out of 10 times, your boss is going to choose the guy that gets along with the team over the guy that knows how to do their job. I can guarantee you that. So try to be the guy that knows how to do their job, but is also the guy that at least gets along with the team. You don't have to be like the person that is hired, but try to keep a harmonious relationship with your team. right? That will give you greater job security, greater promotions, greater raises than being good at your job. I can promise you that. That sucks, but that is the world we're living, unfortunately.
That's, I think, excellent advice.
Mm-hmm.
And something that most of the time we're not actually into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us actually focus a lot on being the guy
Mm-hmm.
that knows how, but
Mm-hmm.
not actually the guy that gets along with,
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
and gets to a lot of frustration.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I really think that even thinking of it on a team perspective, having a team with a greater cohesion is better for everyone than having a team that is broken that cannot get along. So like multiple arguments are going to cause you trouble if you don't get along well with your coworkers, right? And again, getting along well doesn't mean that you have to be friends and go out. No, it just means don't get into fights, don't be an asshole. Obviously, like don't be a pushover either, right? Just be balanced, do your work, don't make enemies. That's it, right? That's really like one of the largest things. Like, I have been fired for 2 jobs for speaking too much or for saying the right thing. So like, I first had this period to tell you that's how it works. That's how it works. Mm-hmm.
Good. So that's like how the main part of our session should be finishing. But yet still, I get some of these frequently asked questions. We usually do at the end of this process. So uh, this one was complicated because there are actually a lot of models
Mm.
out there to show you how to go on with this career pursuits.
Mm.
So the first question that it is actually complicated because I needed a cheat sheet for this one is how does these models help people choose the right career? And I got this like summary of what more or less these models actually are for everyone to get it. So first you get into this career identity core, and then you get this opportunity awareness and exploration, and then you get this skill development and learnability system, and then you get these transitional pathways across lifespan, and at the end you get this adaptability, resilience, and long-term well-being. So like more or less I do get that most of these models that work around on helping you get into a career work around these ideas, these more or less main ideas. I think they may change depending on the model they are using, but this might be the main course because that's the summary. So how they actually help people?
Right. So I'd say that these models that you just mentioned, these are the formal description of what we spoke about today. But these are the formal organization of these different steps in life, of the different process of making choices, of the different process of self-knowledge and evaluation of your environment. This helps people find a career because it takes into account or makes them aware, I'd say, of the multiple elements that come into play when choosing a career. So it makes you think about yourself. It makes you think about the reality of your work environment, right? Like, I remember I used to want to be a marine biologist, but I lived in fucking Quito, which is in the mountains. So becoming a marine biologist, very difficult. So so there's that element of like the practical reality as well, right? And obviously, the reality of applying to a job is not the same to applying to a job in psychology than it is to apply to a job in construction. You need different skills. If I went to a building site next door and I said like, "Hey guys, can you give me a job?" They'd probably laugh at me. Like I know nothing about like construction or carpentry or anything like that. So there needs to be also that awareness of not only the knowledge, but also how do you navigate the different environments, right? Like I don't know how to navigate a construction interview. I don't know if I have to take my tools or if I need to take my steel-toed boots or something like that. Like, so there is a lot of that complexity depending on where you are going, right? We spoke about registered workers. Again, if you choose to become a registered worker, completely different career path, completely different skills. So that is why it helps, because it helps you become aware of yourself, your environment, and how these two things interact and what you may be missing or what you, your strengths maybe.
The second one, quite the same, but for older adults. Like, can older adults or retirees use these kind of models to change careers?
So the technical reason is yes. Would it make sense? I would say no. Right? I think if you are an older adult, if you have had a whole lifetime of experience, you probably have a lot of knowledge and experience that you already gained that can replace using a model like this. Like, again, we have to remember that a lot of these things are there to supplement the knowledge that people may not have obtained for one reason or another. But if you are already like 60 years old, you have a job for 40 years, there is probably a lot about navigating a workplace that you did learn in those 40 years. You probably know that, yeah, don't talk up to your boss. Like, probably if they are having a bad day, do not start a fight with them. Like, you probably, you know, if you have a bad coworker, yeah, do not, like, immediately snitch on them. Like, you give them some time. Like, you may have learned all of these things. You don't need to have me as a coach telling you how to do this. So, can they use this? Yes. Would it make sense? No. I would say with older people, senior citizens, it is a lot more effective to go with a strength-based approach, where you say like, hey, what can you do well? Like, what do you think your strengths are when it comes to looking at a job? Oh, I'm great at construction. I'm great at handling the tools. Okay, amazing. Let's use that as a base. Let's see what we can do with that to find a new career. Okay, maybe you did construction, maybe you want to do plumbing now. Okay, let's do that. Versus me trying to run through the whole thing like it was the first time. It's not going to be the first time. Why would we with that? So I would say yes, but usually not the best idea, except in very specific cases. If you work for the same place for 40 years, okay, maybe, yeah, we need to start from zero. You haven't looked for a job in 40 years. Yeah, you might not have never looked for a job. But other than that, in most cases, it's better to take advantage of what's already there than to try to introduce something new. And I say that's valid across the board as well.
I think this one might be for those who are actually like really tired of what they've been doing their whole life, and they're actually looking for to do what they thought they should do.
Mm.
I mean, like, you being on insurance your whole life, and all of a sudden you realize that you want to, I don't know, street race.
Mm. I say in a lot of those cases, like I said, it is more about having them realize the skills they already have. Because again, like, it's really difficult to go 60 years of your life and go gather a lot of skills and knowledge and experience, right? So if they want to go into drift racing, odds are they have been watching TV shows for like 20 years, for the past 20 years about cars, so they know a lot about cars. So let's start there. So that's what I mean. It's if you're working with somebody that's older, take advantage of their age. Take advantage of a lifetime of experience. Rather than saying, no. Freud said that this is what we have to do, so we like go with the person. What do they already know? What can we use that they already have? So again, if they did insurance, I mean, maybe they are really well paperwork. Let's look at what the paperwork to get into race racing is, and we start from there. Right, so that's kind of an idea. Take advantage rather than assume that that's not useful. Assume the opposite. Assume that's very useful and try to find a way.
Nice. So, third one is asking if it actually address mental health. So, if the models are actually addressing mental health in career development.
Yes, I would say no. I would say these are not mental health focused models. These are very much career focused, profession oriented, work oriented. Like, they are not concerning themselves with your well being. They are concerning themselves with finding you a job. And these are different things, but we have to be very clear about it. If you ask me to find a job, you are not asking me to look at your well being. These are different tasks. They go hand in hand, yes. Finding a good job, finding a stable job, finding a job that you like is going to boost your mental health, for sure. But that's a secondary effect. That's not something that you are necessarily doing or thinking too much when you're looking for a job. Because again, maybe construction, not the best job for me. If I have to pay the bills for next month, I may have to take a construction job. Right? So I think it's hypocritical to think, oh no, you have to find the passion in building. No, motherfucker, if it's a job that you are taking because you have to, that's fine. Be honest, do what you have to do, clock in, do the job, clock out. Have a better boundary, have good boundaries, enjoy your time outside of work. That is what you do for mental health. You have a great mental health separation, and you enjoy your time. You don't try to make what's miserable not miserable. No, just separate. So that's an
Okay,
idea
okay,
there.
okay. That will be nice. So try to keep it separated.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, are these like practical or just theoretical?
And they are very theoretical. A lot of the things that we have talked about today is very much the academic way to look at the process of looking for a job or finding a profession or a career. In reality, things rarely work out like that. Because the reality is really messy. Like every person has a different context, every person has different skills, every how do you say this? Every field, every career path is different. So this is a good overview of a good general guidelines that have to be applied. So this is again promoting the Healer Guild. If you came to the Healer Guild, I wouldn't tell you about all this. I would apply all of this knowledge to your particular situation. Right? So I wouldn't tell you about all the different models of how to find your passion. No, I would ask you, okay, for what you like. Oh, cool. Let's go with that and let's keep talking about that. So none of this is very, very theoretical because there is no way that we can have like something that applies to everybody that's listening to this. That application requires you to talk to somebody who can take the time to get to know you and your needs, such as we do at the Shield Field.
That explains actually why this fifth question is actually here.
Mm.
And I guess it got to do a lot with those in charge of HR, and you'll see why.
Uh,
Can this model be used for career counseling or organizational HR planning?
I mean, that's the problem. The answer is yes. Should you? No. Because it doesn't take into account all the factors that come into play. But can you? Yes. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of people make. That they take these models that we've discussed today as all there is. Well, it's kind of the opposite. These are very much the starting point, and then you get to the meat and bones of whatever it is with your individual client, with your person, right? Like these are just the overview. It's very difficult to use these with a group. Like the okay, very difficult to find something that applies to the whole group in a way like this. Like I don't know if I could get 5 people with the same passion to align into a single purpose. Like I don't know if I could do that with a 20 people group. So it's not realistic to see this as praxis. This is very much the theory that you use to guide somebody in their choice.
Kind of psychometric tests, right? So it may work, but not for everyone in the same way.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So psychometric tests, amazing, really, really cool. Have ASPA manuals. They are very sensitive. There are a lot of things that made them not work anymore. I don't know. We spoke this live at some point, but we were talking about how just mistakes in the way you are, like the person who's applying the test, mistakes in the way they behave invalidate the test. So if the manual says the person has to stay in the room and stay quiet for 45 minutes and they leave, they invalidated the test because they didn't follow the protocol that the test was validated with. So this is like that. Like you can lie to yourself and say, "Yeah, go, it doesn't matter. You're still good." Sure, that's not what the paperwork says. That's not what the researcher said. That's not what reality says. But sure, I guess that's it.
Wow, that's a thing. But we love to hear from you on the other side on this screen, because next week we'll be talking about what happens when we set our motivation in the wrong place. If you made it this far, please leave us a question in the comments area. We'll be happy to try to answer them on our next session. You know what our future topic is, so we'll hope to see you there.
Yeah, as always, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. I hope this has been useful. I'm looking forward to the next one. I think it's expanding what we talked about today about passion into a more life, general life environment. I think there is a lot about motivation nowadays. A lot of talk about motivation. I'll talk about motivation around things like ADHD and neurodivergence. I think it will be interesting to see how a lot of the times the lack of motivation is more of an excuse than a symptom. So yeah, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It goes next time.
Well, now it's your turn to check on your path career if it is important as you make it.
And as always, if you need help with what we say and think looks like something that could help you, remember that we are from the Healer Field. You're all welcome to reach out. I will be happy to give you a hand.
Until next time,
Thank you. Take care.
this